All right, welcome back to the shop. So it's been a couple of weeks since I put out a video. I've just been really busy. I've been rebuilding this Cat 740 transmission for a customer of mine. I've been trying to finish up this 1161. I was done, like 99% done. And the transfer case just started puking trans oil out of the, between the cases where the case is split. So now I've got to pull the transfer case out of that, get that done, and then that one will be finished up. It's kind of messy here in the shop. I got all kinds of stuff going on in here right now. But I wanted to do a quick video on these steering columns for the M1161, M1163 Growlers. Now this is a brand new one here. It's made by a company called Flaming River. They have a website, flamingriver.com, and I'll post a picture here of this steering column on their website, and it shows the price. The only difference is theirs has the clock spring in here. It's got the blinker switch and the horn clock spring, and I don't know if you can call them and order it without it, but I mean, if you have to buy it from them and use it, who cares? Just unscrew the blinker stock and you still have a tilt steering column. So one issue that we have with these things is that this wasn't made for off-road use. It was made for like a car show car, something you'd see on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday morning, you know, Father's Day car show type thing. And when they get water in these Growlers, I mean, you can see the cab here, how wide open this is. And a lot of these saw action on beaches, and they saw a lot of salt water. And when the salt water gets in there, there's no way for the salt water to get out on these old ones. If you see this bearing on the bottom, it's just solid. This one's got some chipping on the bottom there. I did that trying to figure out if I could pop that out. I thought it was a cap at first when I was first trying to figure out how to take this apart. But anyways, it's a solid nylon bushing. And when rain would get inside of here, or salt water, ocean water, whatever, it had nowhere to go. And the water would just sit here and rust. So one solution we've been doing to them all is drilling a hole down here in the bottom. So at least, you know, sitting up here in the dash like this, at least the water can hopefully run out, or, you know, it can get a lot, you know, it won't pull up as bad. But I know there's got to be a better solution, because this brand new one has an opening inside that bushing. It's not solid. It actually has a drain hole. So I'm going to update this with I'll just drill some holes through the bushing to add drain holes to it. One other thing to possibly do, because the problem that happens when that water sits here, and I'll show you after I take it apart, this shaft grows rust on it. It's not chromed or anything. If this shaft was chromed, it probably would have been fine. So I don't know if a guy could actually just put on, you know, take it to a machine shop, or if you have your own way of doing it, put it on a lathe and skive it down a little bit and get it chromed. That would solve the problems. But you know how most of us are going to use these things. We're not going to be in the ocean. We're not going to be, you know, coming off of a, you know, off of a ship or something like that. You know, coming out of a well deck onto a landing craft and drop it in the ocean and going up on the beach. So we're not going to get soaked with salt water and stuff. So I think if we just keep these, just drilling the drain holes in here, and even shooting some lube up in there once in a while, or drilling the hole here in the bottom and just shooting some WD-40 or some kind of lube in there to keep it lubricated in there, I think we'll be fine. So these really weren't made for off-road use. It comes down to that's the main problem. So I'm going to take this one apart. I already took it apart, figured out what the problem was, because I wanted to see what kind of bearings it had inside to see why it was freezing up. So I took it apart just so I'd know what to do, so that, you know, make the video go a little smoother, a little easier. So I'm going to take it apart again, and I'll show you guys step by step how to do it. Now just remember, if you're not real competent with mechanical stuff and you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do this. Find someone that can do it. It's your steering, right? If you put this together wrong and you're out steering and the pin inside breaks or the bushings pop out, the studs or the rods that hold it together, you're not going to be able to steer your truck, and who knows what's going to happen. So I'm not really telling everybody do this. This is how you fix it. I'm saying this is how it is fixed. If you can't do it on your own, find someone that can do it. It's not that big a deal for someone who works with their hands all the time on stuff like this. So anyways, I'm going to put the camera up on the tripod. I'll try to find a good spot here, and we're going to take this one apart. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to center it, make sure it's centered in here. You know, as far as the tilt steering goes, just unscrew the stock here for the tilt steering, and then we'll knock this is just like a tin cover on here. We pop this off, and then we'll go in here and we'll pull this nut off the top. This nut is how you set kind of the preload on the bearings in there, and then we'll go from there. Okay, get that off, and just grab a 7/8 wrench. just unscrew this all the way. It's got kind of a dimple in here, which is makes it, they did that to make it like to put friction on it so it wouldn't loosen itself. So if this thing is really loose when you go to put it back together, peen it some way, just kind of peen the top a little bit, just so it gets it, locks it in there a little bit. Don't get carried away, otherwise you know it's going to be a pain to ever take apart again. But you just want to make sure it doesn't spin on too easily, because if it spins on too easy, it's going to spin off too easy. It's a real fine thread, and it's got a long way to go, but it wouldn't take much of it loosening up to screw up your steering. Okay, so we take that nut off, set it aside. There's like a little ring here. Slide this thing up, get it off of there. It's like this little split ring. It's got a taper on there, and the taper goes down, and that's what pushes up against the bearing here to set the preload. And then next, what I'm going to do, now that I have those two off, I'm going to go ahead and pull out the spring right here, so it doesn't have that spring fighting me on the tilt steering for when I go to take it apart. So I want to get my big screwdriver, and then what I want to do, I'm going to drop that all the way down, tighten it up, and then this looks like a giant screw here. That's just a retainer for it. So you push down, and then you rotate it so that, you know, the cut in here, the cross on the top, lines up with this divot right here, and then it'll come out, and there's a spring behind it. It doesn't have any, it's kind of hard to push. What I do is I hit it with a hammer, and then, but it's not going to fly out on you. It's not that bad. So you just want to kind of get tension on it, turn it the way you want it. Almost there. And then as you smack it with the hammer, it's going to turn it. There you go. So it just pops up a little bit, and it's just this hollow cap. And then here's the spring. The tapered end of the spring goes down, and that's just your spring there for your, you know, for your tilt steering. All right, so the next, what we're going to have to do, you can see right here, there's two pins in here. There's one on this side and one over here on the other side. And those are the pins that it pivots on. Once we pull those out, we can pull this off, and we'll be able to get the shafts apart. So these are a metric thread. Here's the card from the screws I bought. I'm using a socket. It's a 7/16 little 1/4" drive, and it fits really good over the pin. You can find anything like this bushing here is a little too small on the ID, but if you can find a bushing, something like that, you know, but just as long as the ID inside is big enough for that pin to slide into it, it'll work. The size that this screw is, I'm going to have to use this extra spacer. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm just using that nut as a spacer, and then using this socket as like a sleeve for it. It's kind of a spacer and a sleeve. And I'm going to use this to just jack that pin out. Okay, so I just want to hold this socket just kind of centered over that pin so that when it starts to pull the pin, it can slide into the socket. So we'll screw this in. And you'll be able to tell pretty quickly whether you're lined up or not, because when you go to screw this in, the pin's not going to move, and it's just going to tighten right up on you. Okay, so now I've got it tightened up. I'm going to back it out, and I have to add another spacer to it. I guess a slide hammer or something might work too. If I had one, I would use it. Find another nut here. Now that I have the pin out part way, I can add a second nut to it, and that'll give me enough room to be able to jack this thing all the way out. I was trying to find, you know, screws when I was at Lowe's last night with either a hex head or an Allen head, because it'd be easier. You don't have to worry about stripping out this Phillips. They didn't have it, so I'm going to go to Ace Hardware. I want to get a chance and look and see if they have them. So anyways, that's it right there. That's the pin. Just hold it with this pair of pliers. Just about the time you get it out, the screws kind of bottomed out in there. And that's it. That's what the pin looks like. You can see the hole, you know, the threaded hole in the end. So now we'll pull the other side out, rotate this around. And right now this thing's rotating pretty easily because I've already, like I said earlier, I already had it apart. And I kind of cleaned up part of it. But the problem with these things, that these things have, is that you can barely turn the steering wheel. It's just really hard to turn the steering wheel. This out. Oh, this one came out with just one try. I didn't have to add another nut to it. All right, so now that I have both of these pins out, If you look inside here, you'll see a little C-clip on there, or E-clip, whatever they call those things. I'm going to pop that clip off, and then there's a pin that clip is on, and I can just push that pin in with a like a Phillips screwdriver, or put like a O-ring pick or something like that, and that'll separate the two shaft halves. Because basically you got this shaft and then the shaft that comes out the bottom end, and this is what joins them. Okay, now after you get the clip out, you need to rotate this around. And if you look inside, I don't know if you can be able to see inside here at the camera. Anyways, in one of the holes here that the pins were in, the pivot pins, you have to line that up with that pin inside there, the pin that we're going to be pushing out of there. And this hole here gives it a room for the pin to come out. Otherwise, you won't be able to get the pin out of there because there's not enough room in this housing. So I'm basically going to be pushing through this hole and then pushing it through the other hole. Just set the camera down here. And you just have to kind of lift up on here and kind of wiggle it around to where it lines up with what you want to do. And the pin just came right out the back. So that's the pin that holds the two shafts together. And then once you get that pin out, you want to just rotate around so you can get to it. Screw the tilt lever stock back in there, and then you pull up on that, and then that'll release the two dogs here where they lock on here, you know, for your tilt steering locks. This one here, if you look inside, you can see that one of them's broken, like the very tip of it. I don't know why they have two in there. I don't know if it takes two or whatever, but the end's broken off that one. So anyways, here's the inside. You can see the inside of that upper shaft. One thing I neglected to do before I took it apart, this brass bushing goes inside of here, and it should be inside this part of the shaft, and then the pin goes through it. And this is like the little bushing that connects the two together, so there's no slop or play. So this is something to look at too. If yours has a lot of slop, that this could wear out and give you, a lot of steering wheel slop. We'll set that aside. So now that we have that separated, this shaft, let me just set it down. Set the camera down. This shaft's going to come out of here now. You can just tap on it, and it's just going to slide right out. And now if this was perfectly clean and it was new, it would have slid out real easy. When I first took it out, I had to beat it all the way out. If you see all this rust and all this pitting, it was all the way down to here. All the way down to here. I hit it with the wire wheel before I put it back together, just so I could get it back together. I'm going to now finish up. Before I put it together, I'm going to wire wheel all this rust off, and I'm going to lube this thing really well. You can see here's that bushing. It's just a nylon bushing. If this thing's wore out, I don't know if Flaming River sells a rebuild kit for this or not, but it wouldn't be that hard to have a machine shop make you a bushing like this. It wouldn't be that hard. Just find a machine shop that'll cut you one out of nylon or even brass or something like that. It would probably be even better. But on this one, I'm going to drill some drain holes in here. I'm going to polish this all up, and I'm going to lube it really well, and I'll put it all back together, and it's going to be that simple. I'll probably take this back out too, this bottom of this pivot, tilt pivot mechanism, and clean all that rust out of there. I'm going to scrape it all out, buff it out, clean it up real good inside. And so anyways, that is where the problem is, why the steering wheels get so stiff on these once they've gotten that salt water in them. It's all right here. It's in this nylon bushing. It's possible that this upper bearing could be going bad on you too, or that it's got rust. But like this one is in really good shape. So there's actually two of these bearings. They kind of look like the bearings you see on a bicycle, like on a gooseneck on a bicycle, for the handlebars. But as long as these are good, I'm just going to lube them up real well. I'm going to clean it all up, and I'm going to lube it up real well. But if these are bad, I don't know if Flaming River sells those as a kit, but you'd probably be able to find them. I don't know. I'm assuming they used off-the-shelf parts to build these. They might be the same in some kind of a bicycle steering gooseneck or something. I guess. I don't know. I guess I'll get to that point when I have to do that one day. So I'm not going to bother showing how to put this whole thing back together. I just don't want to bore you guys in the video. And like I said, if you have the mechanical abilities to rebuild this where you're going to feel safe about it, where you know you're going to do it right without putting it together wrong and having something not work right and losing your steering, you'll be able to figure out how to put it back together. If you don't feel like you have the ability, don't do it. Find someone that'll do it. Contact me, see if I've got time. You can send it to me, I'll do it. Just find a shop, any shop where you got someone that can rebuild stuff, like maybe an alternator starter shop or something like that. Or if you got a friend that knows how to do, work on stuff like that, that's fine too. I just don't want to see somebody try to rebuild this that that doesn't do stuff like this every day. Because if you don't and you put this thing together wrong, it could be really bad. and I hate to see that. So that's it. That's how to fix the frozen steering wheels on these things. You'll know if yours is an issue because you get in it and it's just stiff. It doesn't want to steer. It's just sticky and stiff, and that's the problem right there. Anyways, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate when you guys hit that like button. I really appreciate the comments. If it's a question, I usually try to answer it. I read every comment. Sometimes they're just, they're not questions and it's just a comment. I'll just hit the thumbs up on it or something like that. Or I'll answer back if there's, something I need to answer to. But I really do appreciate the interaction, if you guys commenting and hitting that like button. And if you have a friend who's into military vehicles or heavy equipment, or just cars in general, share the video with them. Maybe they'll like the channel, and that'll be good. Help me out as far as YouTube goes. If I get more subscribers and more people commenting and stuff, that all helps out. And thanks for watching. Have a good day.